Mr. Speaker, it's looking more and more like the Residential Tenancy Act isn't coming this sitting, and given how many people in Summerside are being impacted by huge rent increases, that's really worrying to me. Question to the Minister of Social Development and Housing. Given how expensive everything is right now, do you really think Islanders can afford to wait for better rental protections?
Minister of Social Development and Housing.
Well, thank you, Mr. Speaker. So the current Rental of Residential Properties Act is one that has been in place for 30 years. And as we know, Prince Edward Island is pretty much the only jurisdiction in Canada, province-wise, that has rent controls. And that has served us well, and it continues to serve us well in that way. Mr. Speaker, it's no secret that the official opposition has been advocating really strongly for tenants, not so much for landlords. They really want tenants to have better protections, and in fact, there are a lot of increased protections for tenants in the Residential Tenancy Act. Mr. Speaker, we have to make sure we ensure the supply of housing, and we ensure that landlords can provide those as well. And that's what we're going to do, and we're going to continue working until we get the legislation right. Thank you.
Summerside Wilmot.
Mr. Speaker, let's unpack how well this actually does serve people. When people go through a hearing for a larger than allowable rent increase, they're often disillusioned by the process. What is being used to make the decision to increase a senior's rent by 30%, 40%, 50% is totally unclear, and the decisions made by the director are done so in secret. Question to the Minister of Social Development and Housing. Why are the decisions from the rental board kept from the public?
The Minister of Social Development and Housing.
Well, thank you, Mr. Speaker. And this is a really important topic, and the member from Summerside, Wilma, and I have had many conversations on this. And the Island Regulatory and Appeals Commission, of course, is a quasi-judicial body, and they're the ones currently responsible, the director in there, for enforcing the Rental Residential Properties Act. And Mr. Speaker, this is one of the conversations we're having. It's not finalized. We want to continue to work with the official opposition. We want to work with advocacy groups for both landlords and tenants, and we want to get this right because transparency is a key issue that we have to get right going forward.
Summerside Wilmot.
Mr. Speaker, the legislation says landlords are entitled to make a return on their capital investment, but it appears that we're considering the market value of properties in that calculation, and that's problematic because landlords hire someone to do a valuation, they pay that person, so there's a conflict of interest there, but it also means that a capital investment can increase without any meaningful improvements to the unit for the tenant. Question to the Minister of Social Development and Housing. What is your department doing to address this issue and protect tenants from excessive and unfair rent increases?
Minister of Social Development and Housing.
Well, thank you, Mr. Speaker. So as the member across knows that any rental increase outside of the yearly approved increase by IRAC has to go through a process, and it does need to be more transparent on how they approve those increases. In fact, I hear from landlord groups as well. They say it's completely inconsistent. They get different rulings. They may have similar units in the same location. And Mr. Speaker, it's an area we do have some work to do in, and you know, we're going to continue to make sure that process is transparent, and we're going to make those improvements.
Summerside Wilmot.
Mr. Speaker, anyone who has gone through that process knows that there are multiple flaws in it. So the minister better not stand in this House and say, we've got a process, we've got a process. This bill has been waiting to be brought to the floor for 2 years. And in the meantime, you know, because we have had many conversations on this, that it is desperately impacting people's lives. Final question to the same minister. While we're waiting for you to get this bill to the House, are you considering any interim protections, like putting a cap on how much that above the allowable increase can be, so people are not priced out of their homes?
Minister of Social Development and Housing.
Well, thank you, Mr. Speaker. So I don't have to remind the member of the history of this Act. It was in for 30 years. We've seen unprecedented market conditions and increases in housing across the province, and the Act is not standing up under that sort of pressure. Mr. Speaker, the previous administration chose to outsource the development of a new Act to a third party without any consultations. I made sure that we actually brought it over into the Department of Social Development and Housing, got policy experts working on it. We've been doing that for a year, Mr. Speaker. It's been 1 year. And Mr. Speaker, we're not where we need to be yet, and we need to do exactly the things you're talking about. In the interim, Mr. Speaker, nothing's off the table, and if you have some specific suggestions, I would take them. It's something we've discussed in the department. We don't have anything we're ready to bring forward at this time. Thank you.
Don Valley